You are now listening to Thinking Out Loud with your hosts, J. Lip and J.Rhodes.
Thinking out loud, we back at it, man. This your boy J Lip, your host, and my co-host J.Rhodes is finally back off hiatus. J.Rhodes, what's good, baby?
What's good, bro? We here. I'm back.
Yes, sir. And then we got in the building the Honorable Mr. Levi. Levi, what's good, baby?
What's good? What up, though?
What up, though? So Levi, you representing the D?
Yes, sir.
And then J.Rhodes, what you representing, that Shy?
The shy, but always the D at heart.
All right, then. So we're going to jump in on these topics. Now, this has been an interesting week in news for, I feel like, what is the culture. And I want to say, shouts out, really not shouts out, but I want to say prayers up to all the families that have lost someone in the bombing that happened this week. It's a tragic event when you have somebody that will go and take their own life and take others with them. So I just want to say, prayers up to them, prayers up, bless up to the family of all those that lost someone this weekend. They said it was something like 20 people that may have died in that bombing and another 60-something people that are in the hospital. It's a really serious situation with these terrorists, and I'm just thankful. I'm not grateful, but I'm thankful that it didn't touch anybody that I know, but we still have prayers up for them. So, prayers up for that.
Yes, sir.
That
Best
was
wishes.
that was nice, Lip.
So, moving forward, now we got to get into these topics because time is limited, as always. So, first and foremost, tonight we're going to talk about Coon. J-Rhodes, you a coon?
Absolutely not.
Levi, you a coon?
You a coon? Hell no.
Well, I'm not a coon. So J-Rhodes, what do you define yourself, or what do you define as a coon?
To me, a coon is somebody who appears to be black, or but they don't have to be black, I guess. But just somebody who's making like ignorant, slightly racist, laced comments. Just mostly ignorant comments.
All right. So a person who makes ignorant comments. Now, this is a black person.
Likely it's a black person. Most likely it's a black person. Absolutely.
So could you be a white coon or an Asian coon? Maybe a Native American coon?
Well, I guess it got to be black coon, because otherwise, if you're other, then I guess you're a racist. So yeah.
Oh, so coon is synonymous with racist.
Related. I wouldn't say synonymous, but it's definitely related.
Levi, what's a coon?
Well, the Urban Dictionary definition of a coon is a black actor or actress that basically plays the stereotypical black roles. They think they made it out, but they're basically slaves to the same image. Now, when I think of a coon, I think of certain people. I think of someone that basically that is black, and they have a certain stereotype instead of being sensitive or having a certain cultural view that is typically associated with black people, they're very insensitive to that. For example, Samuel L. Jackson character in Django.
Okay.
So I it's hard to kind of put it into words, but I can give examples. Like that would be the first example that comes to my head.
Okay, so let me tell you what the traditional term for coon is. It's a racist and derogatory term that means sellout. It comes from the term barracoon, which was a cage used for Africans waiting to be sent to America to become slaves. Since many Africans didn't know about their fate, some would eagerly wait in the barracoons. So, this is the historical definition of what a coon is. Now, I feel like over time, of course, this definition has evolved into what we call basically a gesture towards someone who is not of the culture, who says basically, I'm Stephen A. Smith, I'm a coon, or I'm Charles Barkley, I'm a coon. Like it's not so specific to the historical context, and it's surprising to me because I didn't even know that. I got to shout out Ashley Dunmore for putting me on the definition of where coon came from. So shout out to Ashley Dunmore. I appreciate you. But with all that being said, a coon right now is what we call somebody, in my opinion, who basically trades in the legacy or the, I would say, the loyalty to their culture to sacrifice that for the appeasement of white people. Meaning, a coon would be somebody who says, I'm black, but I'm gonna put on this, shuck and jive. I'm gonna put on, this portrayal of something that's not positively representative of black people. Now, what do
So
y'all think? Go ahead.
so you mentioned Stephen A. Smith. So you think Stephen A. is a coon?
Well. First, I just want to define it. So we gave the traditional definition of what it is. Like I said, the barracoons waiting in the cages to go to America. We gave the definition that Rose gave, you gave, I gave. So now, if we look at who is a coon, who's waiting in that cage, who's waiting to be made in America, for lack of better terms. Um, right now, to me, Stephen A. Smith, Charles Barkley,
Mm,
Steve Harvey, um,
mm.
Whitlock. Who is a coon to y'all?
I disagree with you when you say Stephen. Would you with three of the four? The only one I agree with you on was Whitlock,
Yeah, I concur with Levi.
and here's why. Because Stephen A. The other three is they sometimes have views that are different from the stereotypical views of black culture, but for the most part, it's and just because you have something that's different or you view something different than from what the stereotypical black culture, black society, that doesn't make you a coon being different. You
Hmm.
need to embrace diversity.
No,
Um,
absolutely. No, I'm not. I'm not
yeah,
disagreeing
yeah.
with that. But what makes them a coon is when you have Stephen A. Smith who made uh, egregious comments about women when it came to the whole
Hey, what?
fact of egregious.
Egregious. Egregious.
When he made egregious or egregious comments about women, and hey, hey, I'm a third grade education, so um, when he
Sounds like
made
it.
whoa, when
Come
he
on, man.
made
Keep it moving. Keep it moving.
when he made egregious comments about black women, well, not black women, but women in general, saying what he said about women, and then he had to retract those statements and then apologize. He did that on the strength of ESPN, but he's made many egregious comments about black athletes, and he's never had to apologize for that. That to me makes him a coon because he is satisfying his masters at the
Mm.
sacrifice. Did I hear a snore?
Keep going. I'm sorry.
He makes egregious comments to the sacrifice of his own people, and he never has to apologize for that. But as soon as he says something about women, as soon as he said, you know, I teach my daughters and my women not to do X, Y, and Z, he never makes those same comments and apologizes when it comes to black athletes. So to me, that in and of itself is a coon activity or
Mm.
coon behavior.
I, you know, personally, I disagree with your assessment of Stephen A. Smith. I definitely think you could say if he's a coon in any aspect, it's because he kind of acts out theatrically. When he used to go on those rants, they were funny because I think they were genuine. But now I think it's become a part of his narrative and part of the show's appeal. So that's his most cool thing. I think he critiques a lot of athletes fairly in a lot of cases, and I'm not as familiar to that comment he said about women. that you're referring to. But I don't have a problem with his statements about black athletes in general. Who I would classify as a coon, however, is ASAP Rocky. ASAP Rocky, came under a lot of heat in 2015, 2016 when he had said in that interview. So every time something happens, because I'm black, I got to stand up. What the fuck am I, Al Sharpton now? I'm ASAP Rocky. So he got a lot of flack for that. Then he went on the Breakfast Club about a couple months later to kind of repair his image and did a horrible job because clearly he was illiterate and didn't have any idea of what his responsibility was. And everything he said just sounded disingenuous. And I'm not knocking interracial relationships, but ASAP Rocky hasn't done anything for the black culture besides be a black guy who's popular in music, and he's always seen with white women. He say he respects black women, black queens, but every time you look around, he with a white girl. I think now he with Kylie Jenner or something like that. So he's a coon in my book. The other coon would be Lil Wayne, and even though he's like one of the greatest rappers alive, they're trying to protect him, saying like, oh, he's not in touch with the black movement, he's not in touch with the black lives because he's in this little bubble as a rich person. But this is why I said ignorance is a part of my definition, because when you are somebody who is seen as a public figure or somebody who has influence over like a lot of people, you can't afford to be ignorant because your statements and their ignorance is detrimental to the whole culture and the whole race. So when you say like, oh, Lil Wayne, he's in a bubble, he's rich and he's complaining, but he on TV like, I think the Spurs gonna win it or something. You're like, I don't care about what you say because you don't even have any idea what's going on in the community. This is a community that you came from when you was a little broke hood ass nigga with no shirt, shooting yourself in the stomach, rapping about fucking hoes.
Uh,
I'm done. Go
uh,
ahead. Go ahead.
that that was funny, but no, I can I also disagree with Stephen A. Smith being a coon. The comment he said, just to clear that up, is he said something in regards to the domestic violence and the males going on females, particularly the Ray Rice situation was going on at the time.
Oh,
you know,
okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
when he beat old girl up. So and got caught on camera.
When
So
he
in the
beat
elevator.
old girl up. So, Levi, before you continue, let me tell you this. This is a quote from Stephen A. Smith, July 25th, 2014. What I've
Yep.
tried to implore to the female members of my family to do is let's make sure we don't do anything to provoke wrong actions.
Right.
That was his quote.
Right. And so what he was saying, now that quote was in the context of a much larger statement.
Right.
The statement was he always said, I grew up with a mom and five sisters. So he's always been surrounded by females his whole life. He said he would never condone hitting of a woman. He's always came to the defense of he would come to the defense of any woman that was being hit. If in his presence, so that was, but he did also mention that don't do anything to provoke being hit. Like, for example,
So what
yeah,
is what is an example of doing something to be provoked by a woman?
okay, a woman swinging on you, Yvette and Baby Boy, swinging. You only gonna take so many hits. I don't condone hitting a woman. I'm not saying I would hit back, but like I can't say I completely don't understand if somebody just sitting there going to work on you and your natural reaction would be to swing back.
Right. I mean, I think even though it's not decorum or not appropriate to hit a woman, especially to hit a woman in the manner of as you would hit a man. No woman or no person in general should be that ignorant to think that or oblivious to think that, oh, I can hit you, but you can't hit me. People are human beings. People have tolerances. People have limits. And I'm not condoning saying this right, but if you hit somebody, you got to be prepared to get hit back.
Okay, so
Right.
let's take it one step further from Stephen A. Smith. I am a
Yep.
proponent of most of the causes the gay community has fought for, and I think it's wrong how they've been prejudiced against. But having said all that, I think it's important to recognize that that doesn't mean you have a right to make people feel uncomfortable with you. That's him
Yep.
talking about the LGBTQ community. So, once again, Stephen A. Smith is saying, "This is how I feel," and then
Mhm.
again he has to apologize for it because the powers that be, not black, are saying you need to apologize because there are people a part of our staff, our contingency, our fans, our
Our
listeners,
sponsorship, yeah,
or sponsorship. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Our LBGTQ. So this is a second example of when Stephen A. Smith has said something and he's had to come back and apologize. Again, I ask you, why does he never have to apologize for the egregious statements that he makes against black people?
What egregious statements has he made against black people? The the statements that you mentioned there, and the reason why he had to apologize was because the powers to be that pays him, he basically makes, he signed a big deal like a year or two ago for about $3 million a year. So he's paid based on if somebody's paying you and you taking a white man money, you got to kind of play by the white man rules. You can't do that and then say, no, I ain't gonna, I'm gonna stand up and be black and I'm gonna stand up and do my own thing. Now there's a certain amount of where you gotta be yourself, and I understand that it's self-expression, that sort of thing, but you have
Hmm.
to do that within the context of the general culture, and you also have to be aware of your audience and those sorts of things. You have to take those things into consideration. It ain't like it's the Stephen A. Smith channel or he on OWN or something like that, or it ain't like he working with people that he has to be aware of who he's working for and who he's cashing their check. Most people, if you cash in a $3 million check a year, you gonna play by the rules.
Right.
You ain't gonna sit there and be like people saying that, stand up, be black, be proud, that sort of thing. And I agree with that. I'm all for that. But if you're gonna do that, you need to be those same people ain't sitting there like if he happened to get fired and then get a job making $30,000 a year, they not gonna be sitting there to make up for the rest of his income.
Yeah, and to Levi's point, I don't think that's cooning. I think if anything, that's a part of just the shackles of how you basically you sell yourself out. Like this in this podcast, we enjoy the privilege of freedom of speech because we don't have to answer to anybody. But as soon as we start getting sponsors with their invested money, then we kind of have to kind of be careful what we say. I think that's why TNT's basketball show is so popular because Charles Barkley and Shaq pretty much have a license to say whatever they want, within certain guidelines. But at the same time, they're way more candid than those guys on ESPN. And I think that's why people appeal to them. People hate Charles Barkley. He's very polarizing. People love him at the same time because he's had some wild stuff. Stephen A. Smith, he goes on his Kwame Brown rants. He might talk about some scrubs in the basketball.
Or the
But soon, but,
weed.
but as soon as he say something real about women, you can't be you can't hit a man repeatedly and expect him not to knock you out. Oh my God, I can't believe he said that. I mean, come on now. I mean, being PC is a huge detriment to journalism and freedom of speech.
I agree with you. So, what do you think about Sheriff David Clark?
I gotta look that nigga up. I don't know.
Oh,
That's why I paused. So you can edit that out.
edit this shit out.
Right.
Yeah,
Hey, look, I
no,
googled it. He can't write up. Who
yeah,
is Sheriff David Clark?
Sheriff
I
David
think
Clark is a dude that Stephen A. Smith shows love to in the controversial picture where Sheriff David Clark was the one that said all these niggas that got killed deserve to die.
Whoa.
That's what he said, man.
Whoa.
And Sheriff David Clark took a picture with Stephen A. Smith at his home, and they showed their alignment in that picture. So
Before or after he said the statement, we don't know.
after.
Maybe Stephen A. Smith didn't know he felt that way.
It don't matter. It don't matter. You okay? So now we protecting Stephen A. Smith.
Nah, I mean,
No, I'm just saying I don't know enough about the context of the situation to really comment on it.
Okay, so let me give you some context. Stephen A. Smith is a sports reporter.
I know that, nigga.
Yeah, we know he is.
Sheriff David Clark is a black sheriff who said that these niggas deserve to get shot when they disobeyed the police, and he took a picture with that man.
Oh my god.
He took a picture with that man, and I'm gonna put it on the podcast. I'm gonna put it as the face of the podcast. They took a picture together, like we're in alignment. We agree. These niggas need to, my man that got shot in the back while walking hands up to his car that got shot 3 times in the back. They're saying that he deserved to get shot because he didn't obey the police. The police said stop and he didn't, so he got shot. You
Oh
know,
my god. Now I'm just reading like paraphrases you know what I'm saying. This dude says Black Lives Matter. It means Black Lives Matter. Calling it
exactly.
hate.
Keep going. Keep going.
He calls Black Lives Matter activists subhuman creeps.
Keep going.
Uh,
Keep
he
going.
de- he denies that police officers are more willing to shoot blacks than white suspects.
Keep going.
Man, he's well, he also warned in Twitter about Black Lives Matter's supposed willingness to join forces with ISIS to destroy American society. Liberal policies. He's come on,
Keep
man.
going. Keep going. That's your man, though. I wanna. I wanna
No, okay,
understand. I wanna
okay, now,
understand, though.
okay, now granted, like I said, I didn't do more research on this guy, but I'm gonna say this: I don't know Stephen A. Smith personally. I enjoy his programming for the most part, although I am critical of it at times. So
he
so
said.
he aligns
He
with
said, I
as far,
don't know his programming, nigga. You just.
No, he said he enjoy.
I said I enjoy his programming. I said I don't know
Mm,
him personally,
okay.
but what I'm saying is just like, for example, I mean, we don't know these people. These people who we see on TV, we think we know these niggas because we see them from 6 to 5. I mean 5 to 6, whatever. We don't know these people. We don't know where their money goes. We don't know who they're aligned with. We don't know who they voted for. So if Stephen A. Smith is aligning himself with this crazy ass coon right here, this is a coon, and this guy is supposedly a strong supporter of Donald Trump and is in question of being on his nomination party or whatever the case may be, and he's being alleged of plagiarizing and falsifying documents and thesis papers. I can't speak to it. I don't really fuck with him. What is this? Come on, man. This dude is saying all kind of wild stuff, but you know what I'm saying. Donald Trump is the epitome of an ignorant person with money and power, and he's got a lot of sub followers, and apparently this is one of them.
Okay, so you said that you don't follow his credence, but Levi, what do you think? Sheriff David Clark.
But based on what I'm reading here, that sounds like coonish. That's coonish behavior. That's
Absolutely.
that's coon. That's cooning.
So
So
how does that relate back to what your definition of a coon is? Because you mentioned like it's an actor or actress that puts
so
up
when
a
I think
film.
of coons, I think of somebody like Ben Carson. So somebody
Mm,
that
mm.
Mm.
somebody that doesn't take the view like that made them insensitive remarks relating slavery back to immigration, that sort of thing, and just slaves are not immigrants. Like, we didn't come over here, our ancestors didn't come over here voluntarily or anything like that. And considering the fact that he's a black man, he should recognize and raised in Detroit, unfortunately, he should be aware of how that would come off, and how that could be, like, he should be aware. We shouldn't have to educate this fool on that. And he's a doctor, so apparently he didn't study any of his own culture or anything like that. I don't know how you come from Detroit, you're a black man, and that statement comes out of your mouth.
And he's over HUD, the Housing and Urban Development
Power.
Yes,
organization.
and how
Power.
are you? Yeah, how are you accepting of
I'm telling.
over hood,
I'm
but you were
telling.
like a fucking neurosurgeon?
But I'm telling you, power though. Power is how you overcome feeling like you're one of the lesser or the peasants of society when you have power. When you have power,
Yep.
when a white power gives you the opportunity, you feel like, okay, well, I'm different from them, and I can now expose them for who they are. But he's not really exposing everything, and I don't want to focus on, Ben Carson, because we know he's in the sunken place. But Stephen A. Smith and Sheriff David Clark took a picture together so that they show their unity. And this is the same sheriff who made egregious comments. Thank you,
Mhm.
Rhodes, for that term. Egregious comments about black people and all the controversies that happened with the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, he was one
Okay.
of the people that said, the Black Lives Matter movement was a terrorist organization. Like,
Right.
who, what are we terrorizing? If we say Black Lives Matter and we're protesting, what makes us terrorists versus when Amber Rose does the slut walk, or when the cancer patients do the marathon for heart health? Like, I don't understand how we can say that this man gets a pass, and we can say, Stephen A. Smith, you good with us because you talk about sports, but you still taking pictures and kind of rubbing elbows with a man that says that this Black Lives Matter movement is a terrorist organization. I think that's completely egregious.
But you kind of reaching though, like you're taking a person. So you got Donald Trump, who nobody likes, and has basically condemned himself with his false statements. You got this Sheriff David Clark, who also is a supporter of Trump and is making all kind of horrendous statements. But then you're trying to link him to Stephen A. Smith, who has not publicly said these things, but is taking a picture with him. Now, if you want to go that route, what about Steve Harvey? Now, he took a picture with Donald Trump, and he's in a way you could call him a coon too, because as much as we like, I think most black people still kind of like him because he's kind of funny. He's a historic comedian. I mean, he's basically plagiarized his books. He's basically biting off that. Selling out women, or basically playing on women about some. This is how you keep a man. This is how you think like a man. This is how you get married. But at the
Bro,
same
I'm
time,
100% with you.
okay,
I
so
believe you with that. I believe if you've had 3 failed marriages, how can you
right,
make a marriage book to teach people about being in a relationship? You don't know how to.
Yeah, I disagree with him personally. I wouldn't go as far to call him a coon though. Just that's one of them things where he different than me. It wouldn't be for me, but he got the right to be different. That ain't my choice. And because he willing to meet and speak with Trump, that don't make him a coon. That don't mean he voted for him. Just like Stephen A. Smith mentioned to David Clark, he said he's a bit more. I'm reading on right now. He had an old tweet in response after the picture saying that he's a bit more liberal than David Clark. And David Clark, Sheriff David Clark, claims to align himself with the Democratic Party somehow. But Stephen A. said he's a bit more liberal than him. He don't always agree, but he respects him. So just because, but to bring that point home, even with that and with the Steve Harvey, in reference to Steve Harvey, it's okay to be different. It's just not like, it's okay to be different. I respect different viewpoints. You don't
Mhm.
always have to, we don't always have to agree, but that don't make you a coon because you disagree with me.
It makes you a coon. It makes you a coon when you're seeing hooping and hollering on TV, for the appeasement of like people's. And granted, he's a comedian, so I'm not gonna knock him too much for that. But let's go about this Trump thing, right? So I get what you're saying. I think he probably had a good intention. Most black people were like, oh, we're not fucking with Trump. He probably rigged the election. He's an idiot. He's racist. Da 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 da. So he's probably like, well, we as black people, we need to start listening so we can engage in conversation. So maybe, like I said, maybe he went and he was talking to him, and Donald Trump like, I'm glad you're here, Steve. I really do care about the black people. I probably don't know how to talk to them, but you understand your people. And he's like, hell yeah, I understand my people. I'm black as fuck, nigga. And they said they had a good conversation like that. but what
But he
happens
got a good
is,
point.
okay, like, so they think they had a good conversation, but what happens? As soon as they get done, they in the lobby. Ooh, we gotta take a picture. We gotta take a picture with you and Donald Trump right here. So then Donald Trump can say, I actually don't care about the black people at all. I just wanted to make it look like I care. And I basically use you as a tool for that moment. And now there's no dialogue. There's no follow up. Steve Harvey isn't holding Donald Trump like, hey man, we need to talk about what we talked about. Like, how come he didn't say, I'll talk to Donald Trump about increasing the funding for rec centers and educational programs. There has been no communication, no dialogue of that ever occurring. So basically, you was a tool for that moment to make Donald Trump get a little press. I have black friends. Just like he said about Donald Trump met with Martin Luther King. No, Martin Luther King is dead, nigga. You met with his son.
Right. Right. This is a situation where we got to keep the conversation going. So, with that being said, it's me, J Lip, the co-host, J.Rhodes, and the most honorable, Mr. Levi. We're coming back at y'all. Now, I want y'all to listen. I want you to enjoy. But if you can, like, subscribe, and of course, share with your people. This is Thinking Out Loud. We out.
This episode of Thinking Out Loud was executive produced by J Lip. Music provided by Daisy Smith. Artwork and logo provided by Rob D. And sponsored by you, the people. We thank you for listening.